Hey guys, welcome to Code Decode. In this video, we are going to look into the mistakes that we are doing while building the microservices architectured application. And because of these mistakes, we end up creating just the distributed monolith and not the proper microservice architectured application. And let's get started and let's see these mistakes. So most of the developers like us, what we do is whenever we are asked to migrate from a monolith application to microservices, what we do? We split the application into multiple modules, deploy them separately, and we think, oh, we have created the microservice application. But that's not true. In reality, we have just created a distributed monoliths. Today, let's break down these 6 mistakes that turns our well-intentioned microservices into a tightly coupled messes of distributed monolith. We will also see how to fix them. And even if you're doing 2 mistakes out of these 6, we are going to be a very big trouble because microservices are planned to make the developer's life easy, but doing these mistakes we end up creating the mess even more because we end up creating very tightly coupled distributed monolith applications. So let's first see what really microservices is in a 2 minutes, not more than that. So a microservice should be independently deployable, loosely coupled, and a very important point, the domain driven component which handle only one business logic at a time or business responsibility at a time. Each microservice should have its own database, different database from other microservices, not the common one. They should communicate with each other through well-defined APIs and through topics queues like Kafka's when in an asynchronous communication. Third, we should also make sure that if they fail, they should not break the entire system and do not take the entire system down. Rather, it should be the single individual failure with a proper fallback mechanism. Fourth, it should be deployed independently. Hey guys, recently we have launched a course covering an end-to-end full-stack application using Angular as front-end and microservices and Spring Boot as the back-end. Also, we have used Cloud to deploy this application, and we have used CI/CD, that is Jenkins and Argo CD, for continuous integration and continuous deployment. The technologies that we have used is REST, RESTful web services, Spring Boot and microservices for backend, Angular for frontend. GitHub we have used for version control system. Also, to make the code unit testable, we have used JUnits. We have used Sonar for code quality checks. Also, for containerization, we have used Docker and Kubernetes. And to deploy this whole application, we have used AWS and multiple services from AWS. Also, we have used SQL as well as NoSQL, that is MongoDB and SQL. On AWS, since for the SQL we have RDS, we have used those services, and Jenkins and Argo CD for CI/CD pipeline. Also, this is an architecture of the application that we have created where the front end is Angular and the back end is microservices. We have used ALB load balancers, Ingress for routing and load balancing. And we have used SQL and MongoDB for SQL and NoSQL DB management with Eureka Server and all those microservices counterparts. Now, this is the CI/CD pipeline. This is the CI/CD flowchart for the application that we have created on local. So this is a flow when you create an application in local, push it to GitHub, create a Jenkins pipeline, and do the CI/CD using Jenkins and Argo CD. And at the end, deploy the whole code at AWS EKS. Complete description of this course is covered in a very separate video. The link for that video is also given in the description bar below. And also the link to purchase that course from Udemy is also in the description bar below. So please go and check the description for all these links. A common mistake and misconception that we think that is right is that we just split the code, put it in different folders, deploy it in the different Docker containers, and we thought, oh, we have done the microservice implemented correctly. That is not the case. So let's see these 6 mistakes that we might be doing, which turns our microservices into actually nothing but a distributed monolith. Or even worst, we take back to the SOA architecture. Now you would ask me, what is SOA architecture? I'm not covering this in this video. If you want, let me know in the comment section. I'll give you a very good difference between what SOA is and how it is different from microservices. But for the simple analogy for you, you understand what is the difference between waterfall model and agile model. Waterfall was traditional model of implementing software in the enterprise level. Agile is the newly highly advantageous framework for implementing your software engineering systems into this enterprise level applications. Similar is the SOA and microservices. SOA will make you walk, microservice will make you run. That is the basic difference. SOA is just the traditional way of evolutionalizing your monolith into SOA architecture. And even more refinement when done to SOA architecture led us into microservices. It needs a very big description what is difference between traditional monolith versus SOA versus microservices. But these mistakes might lead you even to SOA, even the monolith architecture. So let's see what mistakes we are doing while implementing a proper microservice architecture. The first mistake is sharing the database across multiple different services. You should not connect to the same physical database or schema for completely independent microservices. The microservices should be one complete unit in its own. If suppose, for example, service A updates the customer records, service B directly should not query the database. Rather, it should do through some kind of API like this. And hence, each service must have its own data. And data, if needs to be shared, should be done through API or asynchronous messaging. So rather than from user service hitting the order service, you should not directly just add the query to their database. Rather, you should expose as a customer microservice. So you should expose the get customer detail API, and that the order microservice can call. That, okay, this order is from which consumer or customer, I should get the whole information. Then you should just give a call to this API /customer/IDS1, and you should get the whole customer data here. And that should always be through either the synchronous call through REST endpoints or gRPC, or through Kafkas or the queues. The second mistake that we do is we call the synchronous communication everywhere. And that is the reason for slowdown in the entire system. For example, service A calls B, service B calls C. Now, if service C goes down, the entire system of this goes down. For example, order service gives a call to product service gives a call to inventory service. What happens if inventory is down? The order service will not be able to even call the product service, and product service, because product service internally gives a call for inventory service to fetch whether this product is available in the inventory or not. In this case, either you can use asynchronous messaging if it is possible, only and only if it is possible. If not, you can implement a circuit breaker, which is the best way to have the fallback strategy. For example, the order service gives a call to product service gives a call to inventory service to check inventory. So it gives a call to inventory service /API/check. But if this is down, your REST API is a blocking call. What do you mean by blocking call? That means the service B will wait until service C responds. Service A waits till service B responds. In that case, keep a particular timeout that after 2 milliseconds or 2 seconds, just fall back saying that inventory status is unknown. Please try browsing another product at the moment. That is how you can prevent the unlimited blocking and infinite blocking of service A and service B who has dependency on service C. The third mistake is you are sharing the DTOs and utilities across. Now, this is a very, very common mistake that 99% of the projects do nowadays. Suppose there is an order service and there is a user service. Both of them needs user DTO. What do? You create the user DTO in a common microservice, and you use the user DTO in both order microservice and the user microservice. What is wrong in that? Both shares the same contract, both needs the same user details. Why not I can create it in a common microservice and add it there? If you know, changing only one attribute in that common for order microservice will also break your user microservice. Now, for example, this creates the tight coupling. Suppose the user microservice wants to change its contract with the user or the UI, saying that my username will be now changed to customer name. What will this happen? What will this cause? Even your orders microservice will be affected. It will have the compilation error because you have changed in the common shared DTO. So any change in one service leads to break in the order microservice, and you cannot even version the service independently. So as explained in the previous video, in microservices, DTOs are actually the contracts, and contracts should be explicitly created and not shared between multiple microservices, so that not just the classes, if being shared, will break another microservice even if a small change is done. So even though it means that you have to make a copy of user DTO in two different microservices, do it. Do not create a segregated common microservices just to keep the contract same for two different microservices. Otherwise, you will end up changing in one, will be giving a compilation errors in all other microservices. So what is the problem and why that is bad? If you create a common microservice and you implement that common microservice DTOs into your inventory, user and orders microservice, it will lead to tight coupling. If you change order DTO, every other service must be rebuilt and redeployed. No independent versioning. You cannot version your microservices freely because they have the shared DTO which is centralized. Unintended breakage. If one team changes a DTO thinking it is local, it breaks another team's microservice using the same DTO. Even though you do not have an intention to break the second team's code, but you end up doing it because it is used by another microservice which you don't even know about it. The cross-cutting dependencies, the shared utilities or helper also creates the hidden runtime dependencies. For example, a date formatter utility in one service will make other microservice to use the same format in their microservice, which don't want to use it. So you keep on propagating tight coupling disadvantages in your microservices. Even though you have created different microservices, all the microservices depend on each other because of one centralized DTO. And hence, that is the worst case of having the code reusability using the shared DTOs across all the microservices. The fourth mistake that 90% of us even now do it, we use the centralized auth or business rules. Putting authentication, authorization and business rules in the shared service like auth service introduces a central dependency. What is the worst case of doing it? It becomes a single point of failure. What if your auth service is down? Any of the application microservice will not be authenticated and authorized, and none of your client can use any of your microservice for anything. It's a complete single point of failure. So rather, do security implementation in your microservice only. Do not centralize it, or don't make it a single point of failure. Use decentralized JWT and auth tokens for its own authentication and authorization. And you should make sure that you do the offline validations and verifications of your tokens. Do not go and call, oh, please validate this for me. Can you do this task for me? Don't. Your microservice should be standalone, independent services. Do not try to depend on other microservices to do your task. And that is the similar mistake that we do. That is, we lack the bounded context and domain thinking. Now, this is a very good example. Let me give you a very good example, okay? You have a notification service who sends notifications for all your different microservices. So if you place an order, you want to send an email that your order is placed, you use notification microservice. You have inventory microservice or the payment microservice. The payment microservice wants to send an email that your payment is successful. You again use the centralized notification email service. Don't you think just because of the technical usage of the emailing, you have splitted your another microservice called as notification microservice based on your technical terms like sending emails instead of the business capability? That is the DDD approach says your microservice should not be based on a technical aspect like sending the email. It should be based on the entirely across one domain, that is order microservice, payment microservice, shipment microservice. Order microservice should be capable enough to send its own notifications when the order is placed. Payment microservice should be able to send its own email when the payment is successful or cancelled. They should not use a centralized notification microservice for handling their task. Don't bound them with each other with a shared microservice. Rather, you can create a utility library. For example, you can create the email sender utility, which is a jar which you can add in each of these microservices, and actual call will be through these jars and not through a microservice. Or the best case, to prevent any kind of synchronous compatibility, if you really have to create a microservice, make it through Kafka or ActiveMQs or recommended MQs or these queues. The asynchronous communications can be done, but make sure that your domain driven design principles remains the same, which says do not try to split the microservice based on your technical requirement, that I want to send email from here also. Let's create a microservice who does it all for us. That is not a domain driven design. You should think through domain. One of my domain is to create an order. One of my domain is to ask for the payment. One of my domain is to do the shipment to the user or the consumer. Then you can only create your own business capabilities in a domain driven design and make those systems independent of each other. Do not create a common utility and use them. Each domain should be responsible for its own notification. They should not use any notification service, because each service now depends on notification service, which creates the bottleneck. What if your notification service is down? All your order emailing systems, your payment emailing system, everything is down. That's a very bad mistake you do. You would ask me, then you will end up creating so much of boilerplate and common code. Answer is yes. But the solution to that is not creating a microservice. You can create a utility jar. Add that jar in your build path or in your Maven or in your Gradle. Use that jar internally rather than creating a complete separate microservice. Be responsible and understand what microservice is and why and what common jar is. There is a huge difference between a microservice and a utility jar. Use both of them smartly. The sixth mistake that we do is the deployment and scaling that is tied together. If all your microservices are deployed together or scaled together, then it's not a microservice. You should not have the same GitHub CI/CD pipeline for different microservices. You should also not use the same versioning and same load balancer for your order system, payment system, and inventory system. There can be the case that your user microservice, while not be that much in use, when there is a sale going on, how much your order microservice or product microservice will be used. That is why I say that your load balancer, your scaling, your versioning, your pipeline, everything should be independent for each and every microservice. Do not reuse. In microservices, reusing is the bottleneck. So each service should have its own pipeline, should be scaled independently. For example, the product service gets 10x, 100x more traffic during the sales rather than the user microservice. So that the product catalog microservice should be scalable independently. Now let's get into the anti-pattern of sharing the DTOs. This was the third part that we have discussed, right? The shared DTO part. Now you'd ask me, if my order microservice and the user microservices use the same, that is user DTO, then why I cannot share it? I'll tell you, because that creates the tight coupling. Changing in one contract in one place will add the compilation error in the another one. Now suppose if both order service and payment service use the order DTO, and if payment service wants to change and add a field of payment, now order microservice is broken unless it is rebuilt. So each should have its own DTO, and they, even if they look similar, you should have their own. Do not create a common utility for both. For example, order just needs the order ID and the amount, while the order payment needs the order ID and the payment method. So keep your boundaries clear. Do not mix and merge both order DTO as ID, amount, and payment method. Keep segregated. Keep only those fields which is necessary. And if there is a requirement that you need to know amount from the inventory service, you can give a REST API call, which should not happen usually. But if it happens, it should be through the APIs. So the final summary on this is, if your services do any of these, then you have to rebuild, rethink, and remove your distributed monolith and create a clean microservice architecture. These 6 things were shared databases, shared DTOs, which 90% of us do. We call each other's synchronously without any fallback mechanism, which keeps our clients waiting, because if one of the microservices fail, other 2 keeps on waiting. Having the central logic for dependencies and to make sure that we are independently and scaling them independently, all the microservices, and we should not violate the bounded context or DDD logic, and we should not create microservices based on the technical discussions. So what you can do now is you can do a health check of your current architecture. Ask, can I deploy these services really independently, or they are just said to be independent, but they are dependent on each other through this shared database or through a shared DTO or through a shared microservice. Then you should always implement the circuit breaker for the synchronous communications and try to go async wherever possible. You should also break your dependencies on each other, keeping the bottlenecks out of your scope, and respect the DDD boundaries. Make sure that you are having the domain specific boundaries rather than the technical boundaries. So just don't follow the buzzwords. Build a true microservice that can scale, fail gracefully, and evolve independently. If you want to know more about the SOA architecture, how it is different from the distributed monolith and the microservice one, let me know in the comment section. The next video I'll create on those things. Thank you.